was gonna hit the clock. I was gonna hit the clock. Wait. Now, wait. Did everything... Oh, no, okay. Okay, I can still do Ravens. All right. Go back to Ravens. Wow. Okay. This timeline thing is really confusing to me. I have to gain it as I go. For Raven, the pay was meager as expected. All right, we've read all this. He looks down at the watch. He looks down at the watch. 10:21 a.m., but there is no one at the door.
Melody?
Excuse me, is anybody there? Please open the door. Not long after, a man with dark skin comes out and looks at him skeptically.
Ahik.
Who are you? Do you have an appointment?
See.
Yes, an autopsy appointment made with Detective Whitten Lockno at 11 o'clock. Are they here already?
Fear.
Wait for a second. The man turns away. Raven puts the suitcase on one side of the flower bed. The Illy City Police never fails to live up to their reputation of slackness. It's just a work contract, but it should be basic etiquette to arrive at least 5 minutes in advance. Raven, you're 39 minutes in advance, but sure. At that moment, he hears a voice. A man is approaching. He doesn't wear a coat, and there was a kind of sophistication that did not correspond to his actions. He looks at Raven through the iron gate with a serious expression on his face. Raven gives him a friendly smile.
Melody.
Good day, Mr. Lockno. I'm the intern from Illy Medical College. But the policeman does not reply. He furrows his brow. His sharp steel gray eyes carefully examine the lad. He pauses for a moment when he sees the leather-encrusted steel box Raven has with him. Noticing the coat of arms of the Illy Medical University on top, his expression softens. He takes the key out of his pocket and opens the chain on the door.
Oh.
Why do they all have very similar tones? It makes it really hard to give them all unique voices. Likewise, in Whitten Lockno's the other guy. I'm his partner.
Line.
You must be Mr. Impersonator then. Nice to meet you. How do you say this name? Alright, translate. Here we go again. Impersonator, I think I got that part, but...
YW Chronistonzer.
It doesn't even know how to say it! Ilkrun Impersonator is what we're gonna say. Ilkrun. That sounds right. Ilkrun Impersonator is how we're gonna do it, alright?
Align.
Nice to meet you too. Seems we've got two of you here. It's unusual. He would this. It's translated game, guys. Anyway, what's your name? Two interns. Mr. Lockno didn't mention he had invited another doctor, and Baton told them there was only one place in the college. After a moment of doubt, Raven dismissed the thought. Lockno probably forgot to tell him about it, which wasn't really important.
Raven Wintshar.
Raven is how you say his name? Raven? Raven? Now I'm sad. Raven Windstar. I've suddenly had a heart attack. Eutron's hand freezes at this point, just long enough for Raven to notice the detective's extra finger. Wait. Well, this just got weird. The symbol suggests the tough guy is skiing, but the only race in Promland who considers it a lucky symbol. Eutron pushes him out of the way and rushes into the hallway, looking around the corridor like a nervous squirrel. Gloom shadows on his face and his chin and neck are tense.
Joe's dear claw.
Where is he? Is he gone? It's a waste of words. The answer has been seen on Eutron's face. The officer strides back into the lounge and searches every corner of the room. Every corner of the room clue like he would a crime scene, as if the windowsill and the desk drawer could hide a living person. Eutron stands and walks over to him. A determined look in his face, Raven turns his attention to the officer. Raven once again sees distrust reflected in the man's eyes. What the... I'm afraid I must check your intern identification, Raven.
Line.
Absolutely. Here you are, sir. Raven takes his intern identification out to show it to Raven takes his intern identification out to show it to the detective. Eutron immediately looks over and acknowledges him with a nod. Eutron lifts up the white cloth that is draped over the autopsy table to check on the deceased. After seeing the condition of the corpse, he leaves a sigh of relief. Well, the good news is he didn't tamper with any evidence or the body. Shall we start? For a moment, Raven couldn't tell whether the officer was being careless or so overly cautious when he was making things up. Raven places his suitcase on the table and opens it.
Blurchy.
Alright then, I'll start. Familiarity boosts his confidence, and after putting on the latex gloves, Raven feels calmer. Even so, fresh bodies, especially when they are the victims of murder, still leave Raven full of sorrow. Immediately, Raven is particularly aware of the corpse's left arm. The skin was stripped from it all the way from the elbow to underarm, exposing the deep red muscle hidden beneath. Fuck.
It is impala.
Oh no, I've accidentally clicked something. Okay, it's gone. Eat. Oh my god. Alright. Google Translate.
White test.
Each.
It was clearly not from the autopsy, and Raven shudders at the thought that his wound may have been a result of skinned flesh. He forces himself to forget the loathsome truth that what he saw after the white cloth was removed had not been as horrendous as his imagination feared. For instance, the corpse's face is still intact, though the cheeks are slightly sunken and the lips and eye sockets have started to wither. The skin is at least still there. For the body, it was not as lucky. The skin in the wound is soft and torn, and the flayed edges have dried out over time. Raven examines the wound closer. From the incision to the innards, he could see the victim's organs had been tampered with. Judging from the positioning of what was left, there's a high probability that a large portion of the intestines were ripped out. Not surprisingly, considering the size of the wound, a significant number of his internal parts had also been removed. Detective Eastonezer?
Birctreel?
Anything interesting?
Show.
I'm not
Mower
sure. I'm not very
steer.
familiar with this case. Mr. Lodno didn't give much information on the body, so it would take some time to reach that conclusion. But there's something weird about his skin. It's awfully bleak and dry. Raven gives Birctreel an apologetic look. He stares into the police officer's eyes, and the latter does not seem surprised at the phrase bleak and dry. He is certain the detective knew something. Soon enough, Birctreel walks up to him and pats him on the shoulder.
Ah.
Right. That's what the other guy said too. Presumably, he may have been drained of blood.
See.
That's a possibility. Some form in acute anemia. He turns around and takes his scalpel out of his surgical kit. But as he's about to make contact with the body, Birctreel stops him.
Shankfo.
There's already a cut made. He lifts the piece of flesh up again, showing one side of the muscle to Birctreel.
Birctreel?
Could you locate where he lost so much blood from? Raven purses his lips and places the tweezers on the tray. I can't say that with absolute certainty, but he bends down and spends a good deal of time scrutinizing a specific gash. The eyes then flick to the victim's neck. They keep jumping back and forth as if comparing the two spots. Finally, he straightens his back.
Show.
He's
Mower
got two arterial
steer.
cuts, one on his left arm and one on his neck, both which could have emptied him of blood, and there's a hole in his abdomen, so it could be from his intestine. If it was severed while he was alive, that could also cause an hemorrhage. But I'm inclined to believe he was cut open post-mortem. Raven uses a surgical hook to pull the wound in the abdomen, exposing the entire cavity. Are you smoking? We have a job to do here. Detective! Unprofessionalism at its finest. The disorientation of the internal organs clearly shows the extent to which it has been disturbed. Most of the intestines were pulled out, and everything below the colon was gone. Cruel, but what are they going to do with the guts? Staring at the corpse, Birctreel remained silent for a few moments.
Salerno.
Tell me about it. To think that this is the fault of some maniacal priest, I don't buy it. A mad priest, the phrase lingers in Raven's mind for a moment. Suddenly it comes to him. The word priest has been used in reference to that recent murder in the wandering priest from Thalazag. He looks at the internal organs of the body, and a strange feeling washes over him. Is this the victim of that Thalazag priest case? To be honest, I don't believe it's a priest who did it. Besides, there's no reason for him to take the guts away unless he's fallen under the other one's believer. God of West Leary, the other side of Andy Nomi, is depicted as an invisible evil that fell into sleep just like Birctreel. The other one has four H's to command. It might be lurking in the shadows somewhere whilst it sleeps, all bedding evils into the world. This got very mystical.
Ah.
Yeah, go on. Raven looks at the body. This time he spends more time staring at the victim's face. It is unusually calm, but the loose skin tells of his pain. It is the kind of look that says that the person was drawn into a nightmare, experienced unimaginable distress in their last moments, and the soul was carried by death in a trance. Judging by the look on the victim's face, I think they killed him first and then messed up with his body sometime later. Raven licks his dry, peeling lips, then picks the tweezers and points to the dead man's face.
Mojer steer.
From his expression, we can see that he seemed calm. I mean, he doesn't look like a tortured man. Irtrin nods. Raven moves his tweezers to the victim's neck and closes the wound there.
Show.
In the case of the
Mojer
injury
steer.
prior to death, the tissues near the wound tend to shrink more significantly, and after a certain period of time, the contraction would release to a point.
Line.
This part is a classic pre-death wound. With this type of injury, you would first lose blood from the outermost part of your body, like the skin or flesh, and eventually, your internal organs would stop functioning due to the bleeding. In this case, there don't appear to be any oddities about the blood circulation. That means the abdomen was left untouched until after the death of this man. He leaves the tweezers and draws Irtrin's attention to the color of the body's muscles.
Line nexi.
I can't give you a specific time, but the likely sequence of injuries can be deduced. Look at these wounds, which were all exposed to the air. The muscle on the arm is darker than those on the abdomen, which means it would have been inflicted quite earlier.
Mojer steer.
The contraction of the surrounding skin is also more pronounced than those on the abdomen, suggesting that the cut on the arm was done shortly after death, after the cut on the throat, but before the abdominal incision. Is this the victim from the opener? I'm wondering because in the opener, the guy like tripped or something. He like gasped and fell to the floor, but it wasn't clear why. Then he was cut, then his throat was slit in the opener. So I'm wondering if that might be what this is. So the perpetrator wrung his body, stripped him, then dug out his guts. Well, it sounds like an evil ritual, which probably can't be done by the typical priest even with this kind of weapon, right? Raven turns about and spots a dagger where Irtrin's fingers are pointing. It has a slender gray blade. The priest's dagger. Raven had heard about it. He shakes his hand and sets the tweezers back onto the tray.
Bodish.
I'm sorry, but I don't know much about weapons. I think you're right, though. The characteristics of the wound suggest they are made by a thicker and more exquisite blade, like a hunting knife. I was gonna say rapier, but that doesn't have a blade. Like a hunting knife. Raven nearly chokes on the thought. Special knife those top hunters have. He takes a severed intestine and shows Irtrin the cut.
Mojer steer.
Look at the twist of the slice, meaning the killer used it just twice to cut it off. Where the skin was flayed, the tendons were torn to shreds, and the blood vessels and muscles were badly damaged. If there were only these two wounds, I think the killer did it in a hurry. Raven picks up the hook and pulls the wound on the neck.
Show.
But this wound is completely different. The knife must have gone in a downward direction, cutting the carotid artery clean without harming the trachea. Which wouldn't be possible for the typical person, except for butchers. Except for butchers, surgeons, or those with such a steady and sturdy hand. Which is another reason I don't believe the killer is the priest. He puts the hook back. Irtrin looks up with the interest at Raven, clapping a few more cheers for him. Splendid! You definitely deserve the title of the Medical University top intern, alright? Raven hesitates for a brief moment, flustered over Irtrin's compliment. I made another discovery, but I'm not sure about it. I think the body was moved after it was completely stiff. The leg is in an abnormal state for stiffness as well as the shoulders. You better search again where you found the body. It's probably not the primary crime scene.
Godhrkar.
The scene is still in isolation, but I will apply for a third round of search. What do you see regarding the identity of the deceased? Look at him. What do you think? Raven glances at him, then ponders for a moment. He looks at the corpse's face, down to the bare black-brown chest. He finally picks up one of the hands, showing it to Irtrin. He doesn't look like a local. Trezor, Sudan, maybe some of oceanic peoples. Immigrants fit the profile. They seldom relate to other locals, and only a few of them go to the police even if something goes missing. Is that right?
Twiline.
Makes sense, but not enough. A person's hands and legs often tell the story of one's life. Look, the skin on his hands is rough and pleated, and there are thick calluses indicating he often engaged in heavy physical labor.
Slish.
And here, look at his knees. They're twisted and deformed, the result of long-term exposure to seawater. Adding everything up, he was probably a fisherman or a sailor. I
See.
see. Raven places the body's hand back in its original position and covers the deceased with the white cloth. Iritrin finishes writing, flicks the black notebook closed, straightens up, and nods to Raven. I think I've got it. Thank you very much for your help. I'm going to both the docks and the port to get some information. We will pay your salary within 3 days and send the check to your mailbox. Don't forget to keep a lookout for it.
Line.
Right.
Brotzy.
Thank you very much, sir. Raven breathes a sigh of relief. He wipes the tweezers and scalpels with the gauze, wraps them in a bag, and puts them in another bag. They'll need to be sterilized again when he returns. Iritrin speaks while watching it.
Kavixanito.
Raven Wintshar, right? You're a good intern. Have you thought about working here in forensics? The pay isn't bad, and a few of the old doctors should be retiring soon. Raven's hand stopped for a moment. He flashes a smile at Iritrin.
Bodish.
I'm afraid I don't have that intention. I'd rather be a surgeon back home, but I'll take your advice into consideration. Thank you. It's nice to be a surgeon, but is staying in Illy City all that bad? It's a mess sometimes, but for most people, it's a good place to grow up and live in. Raven takes off his now sticky latex gloves. Iritrin observes Raven rub his fingertips as the eyes dart back and forth as if weighing out his words.
Show.
Well, it's not about Illy City. I have relatives back home, and I studied medicine to go and take care of. Iritrin notices a slight change of light and shadow in the young man's face. The outer corners of his brows droop, and Raven's amber eyes sparkle, and his lips curve upwards. A nostalgic smile reflects off the face of the pale, melancholic intern. Raven has no idea that his eyes and lips are revealing the secrets of his heart. Okay.
Oh.
Well, is she in poor health? You can bring your family here. The weather in Illy City's perfect for recovery. Iritrin watches Raven lower his eyes and close the bok buckles one by one. The two fall silent for a while, and only clattering of metal clasps can be heard in the morgue. It's not about the disease, it's just... The words escape Raven's mouth like a speeding freight train. Then, he is absorbed in his thoughts again. Internal conflicts and repressed uneasiness fill the young man's face with a melancholy haze. But he is soon aware of his impoliteness. Raven pauses, swallowing up his hidden emotions behind the pointless self-justification. I'm sorry, I just fell into memories, that's a bit much. He smiles apologetically at Iritrin and picks up his kit.
Melody.
I'll take my leave now. Best of luck with your case, Detective Easternezer. Is that the end of this chapter? Indeed it is. Holy shit. Okay, no, we're going back to Chervlet, or Chervlet. Okay, so, now it's the theorizing time. This is the part I cut out of the videos because we don't need those. But